Alice, it must be like, I mean, you could tell me, it must be like tantric sex. So what's that thing you do? What's that thing that you what? That thing where you take like Xanax and then have sex, whatever. It's a very millennial thing, Gen X.
I don't know.
Okay. But I think you're supposed to put off the pleasure, and then once you get, I don't know about it either. I haven't taken anything.
Okay.
But I think that's what it was like doing my program today, because I was so sick, and I am still. I want you guys to know I am heroic, but I'm effed up. But thankfully, I've had this cocktail here, so I'm
Not all day.
What do you mean?
You said I've had this cocktail here.
No. Just for the last few minutes or whatever. But
Okay.
But all the kids have a stomach bug, and it's all disgusting. And so I got the adult version, which is somewhat different, but still terrible. Everything aching, etc. And it was good luck that I was broadcasting from here, because it's literally a bed right there, so I could lie. I had good 7.5 minutes at the top of the hour to lie down, which felt nice. And I actually did some of the one segment while lying down with this thing, but I was worried that I would just fall into a slumber.
Well, and I've been doing insane amounts of laundry and cleaning up after the 3 kids who've been throwing up since Sunday, between the 3 of them. So,
are you talking directly into that microphone?
Now I am.
Okay, let's make sure you do, because
Okay.
or else you just kind of mutter away there.
You know what? Talk directly into the microphone. Hi.
Wow, it's only been 2 years. This is excellent. No, but that's fine.
So shout out to Morgan, who's also in Vermont and has been cleaning up kid throw up. Who let us know that after our Sunday show.
Oh, really? Morgan, and nod to the Morgan horse of Vermont. Did you know that else?
Well, I don't know if that's who Morgan's named after.
Do you know the Morgan horse? It's a Vermont horse. So I'm glad. I hope everybody's feeling better.
Yo,
Morgan.
everybody feel better.
But here's the thing: is that so I was just so looking forward to 3:00 for 4 hours, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be able to lie down and just melt away into a bed. And what's wrong? What's wrong?
What do you need me to do?
No.
I'll go.
Where are you going? Where's everybody going?
He needs me to help him. No, don't touch any cameras, please.
What do you need, buddy?
Hey.
There's 3 brothers down there, and
Nobody's going to help him except me. So.
what do you need, Cyril?
I'll come help you. No.
What does he need?
Nothing you want to talk
Oh.
about on the show.
Okay. Did you throw up?
I don't know exactly, but I know it's not something. That's why he's not saying anything.
Okay. It's no problem. This happens to Rogan all the time. Thank you. Okay. So anyway, that's enough of my bitching and moaning and kvetching about feeling sick. But what I was saying is, I was just so looking forward to the idea of getting to lie down afterwards. You guys know, you've all been sick before, and it's just, oh God, great thing. So I did get to lie down for a while and got to hang out, listen to some podcasts, do all that stuff. But it's one of those things when you're sick or whatever this flu is, whatever this thing, where like you're kind of off put by everything going on, everything you've been doing the last 48 hours. Like I'm off put by the taste of the coffee, by the sound of the current events and podcasts I hear. You know, just kind of makes you feel just too much. It's one of those things that this bug just makes everything look cruddy. But I actually had this in 1984, I think, when I had the flu or whatever for like 72 hours. And my brother and I watched The Outsiders like 63 times in a row. And I was just like, ugh, and I still now associate it with that horrible feeling. It's like a Pony Boy. I would do it for Pony Boy. Nobody starts a rumble without me. And oh my God. Okay, so maybe I'm hallucinating. But so the day started with, for news-wise, with the Zelensky address to Congress. And the guy is good. He is definitely good. It was well orchestrated. First, he came on, talked about 9/11, Martin Luther King, all that stuff, and then I don't mean to minimize it. I realize those are big things, but then he threw to a video package that just showed the death and destruction happening in Ukraine, including featuring many little children and babies who were dead, dying, or in just states of duress, and it was a really emotional tearjerker. And then he came back on after he took it back from the video afterwards, and then spoke in his broken English, which really makes the plea impassioned and personal. And that's really where his talents came in. And it was like a kind of Viva Ukraine moment at the end, and everybody stood and they gave him a standing ovation for a long time. He addressed Congress, and it reminds me of just how important it is that he's a performer, because if you've seen a play, if an actor has an especially good performance and gets a rousing applause at the end, the actor will demur to the audience and just show appreciation and heartfelt appreciation, etc. And I saw Zelensky doing that like an actor would. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Heartfelt. Thank you so much. And I thought, man, here we go. So I definitely think, even though Biden has been tepid, fairly tepid, and really hitting the gas on engaging those guys, I think Zelensky did as good a job as could have been done today to move the needle in the hearts and minds of the American people. We are sending him armed drones, so that's something. And he, at the end of Biden's presser today, he did not take the idea that we'd work with the Poles to do that MiG thing off the table. So that's kind of alive. So there you go. But I am, and it's interesting, I am worried that we as a culture, and much like we were affected by COVID and by to the George Floyd stuff and all of this stuff, I am worried that we have, as a culture, are wrapping our collective American minds around committing to a war with the Russians. I think that you look at all of these narratives, and it sets up a thought exercise that you can't disentangle yourself from if you want to be consistent about oppression around the world, about the evil Russians and all this stuff. And I think, just look at all the congressmen today. They were absolutely into it. It's a feel-good story. People want to believe in this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Putin bad, Zelensky good. And it's easy to say, hey, we're sending UAVs with arms to fly through the air and roast Russians on the ground. Why wouldn't we send planes? And then from why wouldn't we send planes? Well, then why wouldn't we use anti-aircraft installations that are manned by NATO troops or American troops? Because it's just another nudge, and that's defensive, right? It's almost a good thing that Putin, because I don't think we want to be committing to a full war, because I don't know what's in that guy's mind. I don't know if he says, you know what, forget it, it's the end of the Soviet dream, fire off the nukes, which I'm sure about 1 out of 50 would actually work, but still, that's devastating.
That's enough, yeah.
Sure. So it's like, in this case, because the winds of enthusiasm of the world are blowing Zelensky's direction, it might actually be advantageous that Biden's an old stubborn husk, in that he doesn't seem to be rah-rah into this. It actually might be, advantageous for us at this moment that Putin is setting acceptable guidelines and his own little red lines of what we can do and what we can't do. Because I'm afraid that the global community or the global mob is starting to get excited.
Well, right. And if we had President Kamala Harris, who's completely prone to the winds of social media change, then, then we would probably already be at war with Russia, because President Kamala Harris would have been like, yes, #close the sky. And we would already be in an open conflict with Russia.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. And I don't know that it's sound global policy that so far has kept us, at least somewhat tethered to limitations. But I'm glad that we're not jumping right in. I am for giving the Poles, having the Poles do the MiGs, send them the MiGs. And I think Zelensky actually has, when he mentions that we should be a new global constituency or new global coalition, that is bigger and different than NATO, which is clever, that there could be something to that. If we had the opportunity to wax Putin here and drive these people out with no real downside, I'd be all for that.
I mean, I think it's an interesting... I thought Zelensky's argument was interesting because the upshot of the argument, at least to me, like what my major takeaway was he was making essentially a philosophical argument that countries shouldn't be allowed to gobble up other countries by conquest.
Right.
Any other country. So, a country can't come in and decide to take over another country, which is really, I mean, I think that's generally like pretty much people feel that that's wrong nowadays, imperialism and conquest and stuff like that. I think there's a general, sort of consensus on that's not the right thing. But it's also interesting to me because that is absolutely out of step with the entirety of human history. Right? Is that countries have always conquered other countries by conquest. And the people who did it were considered big heroes and great. I mean, like, what do people think the Roman Empire was, or the Russian Empire, or the state of Germany, or really the United States? I mean, parts of which are arguably conquests, which is like...
I don't think the state of Germany has won World War II very well, Alice.
No. I'm not saying they won World War II. I'm saying they
won it well.
I'm not saying World War II is their war of conquest. I'm saying the fact that there is a Germany was a bunch of little kingdoms conquering each other and consolidating into a bigger state, right? Like, there's been all kinds of wars of conquest through history. And, like, yeah, we haven't generally done that for the last century or so, but that's the exception, not the rule, right? And I think that, I mean, like, that's nice if we're all changing this to, like, a new international norm, but I think there are people out there who are not playing by that norm, right? Like Putin or Xi or whoever, right? Like, I think there's a bunch of countries, and a bunch of them, like in the Middle East too, right? Who believe that the way that you increase your power in the world is by conquering other countries and making them part of your country, whether they want you to or not. And that's, I mean, like...
Well, and others who believe rationally. Because they don't have the luxuries that we have, they can't power their country out of Stanford, California, like we can, So we do have a privilege in the United States where we don't have to intercede really into other territories and grab stuff, etc., or at least with arms in a blunt force way that looks bad on TV.
Well, and at least nowadays, certainly.
Right nowadays, right? We can buy our way in essentially if we need influence over other territories.
Right, but I mean, people would argue that. Like, and I don't know how fully I agree with that, but that, like, the way Hawaii became part of the United States was, like, imperialist and colonialist and all this stuff. But, I mean, fundamentally, that's how countries exist now, is because they did stuff like that to make other countries part of their country, right? And I don't know how much human nature changes where, like, unless we're really the biggest, toughest kid on the block, I don't see how we can make other countries that don't want to play by those rules and be willing to back it up. And, like, we're going to back it up for every country in the world that decides it wants to fight another country.
I don't know. I think there's a difference between that and what we're seeing from the Russians here.
I mean, like, is what Putin's doing to Ukraine, like, fundamentally, philosophically different than, like, what Caesar did to Gaul?
Yes, in the sense that this is a public conflict, that the entire globe can see this unfold. Two, I think that with mechanized warfare and technology now, that things are bigger, quicker, faster, louder, and more brutal than ever before.
I mean, I don't think they were nicer back then.
No, I know there was heads on pikes then. I understand. But I kind of feel like that at some point, for all Western nations now, we've decided that you're not allowed to just go grab a woman and rape her and, have your way with her and say, oh, suck to be you. Sorry, I'm... Yeah. And I think we've evolved. We've come together. We aspire towards a better decency and more
Yeah.
civilized society.
True.
And so I think that we look at this and say, well, we don't have to compare ourselves to the Romans. We look at ourselves and say we can compare ourselves to just modern values, Judeo-Christian values, and
Well, right. But the thing is, I think that like we can have our modern values in our country and like maybe the countries around us or something, but we don't try and stop rape in every other country in the world. We try and stop rape in this country because that's our values and like we don't believe that that's right.
Right.
We're not out here convicting people of rape in Ghana because that's not like our job and like we're not in control of that. So I guess what I'm asking is like, I mean, like these are our modern values, and like you say, much of which is a Judeo-Christian innovation that came like post Roman Empire, but was still like practiced through much of the world long after that, right? But this is a modern idea, this idea that it's like not right to just go take other states if you can, right? And I mean, like, I agree with that modern idea because I'm a modern person, but I don't, I think there are people out there like Putin who don't agree with it.
He's not wearing pants. So.
And I don't know to what extent it's our job to make everybody else in the world uphold every modern notion that we have.
What's going on, buddy? You need mommy? You need mommy? Okay, come here. And yeah, no. I'm right there with you, and I also do think that people look at Ukraine and look at what's going on the street, and there are taxi cabs, and there are little cell phone stores, and there are daycares where they push the kids out in little trains full of kid holders, like they do in Faneuil Hall and any other place. And you look at this peaceful people. And they're going, and the Russians are going in with military assets and just murdering them. And well, they are, and you can say it's a matter of strategy, et cetera, and maybe it is. But this is for these people who are highly westernized. These people play Roblox probably against my kids. They're not used to this. They're not. This is a transgression on them that is brutal and should be unacceptable now in this day and age. There's no doubt. We shouldn't be killing children. And listen, I understand the larger conversations of casualties, etc., and other American adventures that we've had. And I get it. I'm right there with you. I know that it happens, and it's part of war. But we should not be lauding it. We shouldn't be encouraging it. And we do things, and I still believe, even though my faith in institutions in this country has been shaken to the ground, I still do believe that we are we strive to be a more moral country whenever possible. As far as other stuff going on, let's see, 1 second, I got some notes here. We didn't want to spend too much on Ukraine because it's just, everybody's been talking about it all day, and it's just, it just doesn't, it's been too much. It's been too much. But let's see. Get over here, notes. Where are you? Where are you, notes? Here we go. Messages. Alice Shudick. By the way, thanks for your nice correspondence. United and Indivisible. Yes, I did know that my birthday fell on David Bowie's and Elvis's. Here's another one. Here's NBC News. For as long as women have excelled at sports in the modern era, their gender and sexuality have faced fierce scrutiny, historians say. Alice, how bad was it? Oh. So, and they've got a picture of Leah Thomas and two other people. For as long as women have excelled in sports in the modern era, their gender and sexuality have faced fierce scrutiny, historians say. And there's like Chris Everett Lloyd or whatever, or Minerva Trevorova on the left. In the middle is Leah Thomas, and the right is some woman runner. And now they're trying to tell us that Leah Thomas is being unfairly treated because he's ostensibly a woman, rather than point out that Leah Thomas is the one who is harming women. It's unbelievable. And it's total, like, this gaslighting campaign that this country embarked on, and it's nuts. It's nuts. For as long as women have excelled in sports in the modern era, their gender and sexuality have faced fierce scrutiny. First of all, get over it. I would say, women athletes face scrutiny and fierce scrutiny. I'm all for women's basketball and women's teams and everything they want to do. I'm all for it. My daughter plays sports. But if you're overly sensitive because nobody pays attention to the WNBA compared to the NBA, well, then lighten up. Sorry, it's too bad. The dudes can jump 8 feet in the air, okay? The ladies can't. That's just how it is. Maybe they will someday. But for this thing that NBC News Alice has Leah Thomas.
I saw that, yeah.
Yes, talking about women being, unironically, talking about how women are being, are at the disservice. Anytime we're propping up men who are pretending to be women, who are competing against women, then that is misogyny. Straight up.
Yeah, because essentially you're saying men can be better women than women can.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's ultimately like the upshot of the whole thing. Like, when you crown a guy a pageant queen for like Miss Nevada or whatever, then you're essentially saying he's a better girl than you are.
Right. And I almost wonder if there's a new wave of feminism, LGBTQ, IA feminism, whatever, that actually likes this, because they will have all new records set all over the place. By men, we know they're really men, but who they're saying are women, so then women can say, look how well we're doing, see?
Yeah.
I mean, it's effing insane.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, but that's always been true of the LGBT movement before it had all the Q's and extra letters and stuff. There have been strains of it. There have been parts of the LGBTQ movement that have been, dismissive towards women, I would say. I mean, I think there's, even in some of like the callbacks to, not to go back to ancient Greece and Rome again, but to that sort of thing, like there's a sense that, I mean, there was a sense among the ancient Greeks that like true love couldn't be between a man and a woman because women were like inferior and sucky, and like how could you really love one? They were for like having your kids at home, and like not really for like, you couldn't really be in love with one. That was like a little extreme. And I think there's strains of gay culture that veer towards that a bit, of like not really thinking that there's a place for women in their lives or in the world, really. I don't know. And I think about that, like when, Pete and Chas and Buttigieg put their photos up of them like in hospital gowns on the hospital bed that they probably just kicked some poor woman out of who birthed their children, like holding their babies. Did you see Dave Rubin's having kids too with a surrogate? Yeah.
You see the messages?
What messages?
One of the messages, Denise McAllister, I think you maybe know her. This is her message to Dave Rubin and his husband, who's also Dave, I think. To purposely deny a child his or her mother to gratify your need to fill the empty void within caused by your sin, and to construct a false family because you have rejected God's holy means to create a real family, is nothing less than child abuse. I pray for your repentance.
I mean, I might not put that exactly that way.
Oh, you think, Alice? I'm not sure if you should be writing Hallmark cards for a living.
I'm not sure I would put that exactly that way. But I do think that, I mean, like, I think it's tragic. I think kids, deserve to have a mother and a father.
Dave Rubin and his husband will be just fine. They'll be great parents.
But
yes,
I think
they'll be better than two people you and I know intimately.
I know that. But my point is, I think that kids deserve to have a mother. I think that mothers are important.
There's not one in this case.
Well, there is one.
But she's disinterested in having the kid and wants cash.
I mean, maybe.
Else, are you suggesting that they just griped the kids? that Dave and David went through as if they were shopping at Neiman Marcus with big brown bags and just said, you know what, I'll take that one.
How do you know the kid was disinterested in having a mother? Because it seems to me that it would be in a kid's interest to have a mother.
Well,
it's not that you can't be a great single parent. It's that having a mother is good and having a father is good. They're both good things. And that if you intentionally bring a kid into the world to purposely deprive them of one of those, that's like not really right. I just don't think it is.
They're not swiping the kid out of the arms of a mother. The mother has been transactional.
yes, the mother's been transactional, but it doesn't mean it's right for the kid. You can't. I don't understand this idea. Like, it's okay to sell kids as long as the
parent. You're making an ad for abortions is what you're doing.
No, I don't. No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making an ad for abortions. I believe in adoption, but I believe that having mothers and fathers are both important. Of course, it's transactional, but I don't think they're adopting a child no one wanted. Infant adoptions, they're adopting a child that they, made happen in a test tube on purpose to not have a mother.
Well, it's going to be. There's a woman who's going to carry the child who's not interested in doing anything more than that. So what do you want? I don't understand.
I think that that's wrong. Would you think, for example, there obviously is a lot of people want to adopt infants. Infant adoption is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's older kids that are in the foster system that don't get adopted, which is why people do this. But they could adopt if they wanted to an older kid who's not going to be adopted by somebody. Instead, they're having someone bring a new kid in the world on purpose to abandon it. It's selling children, and it's weird. Like, I couldn't just sell one of our children to a gay couple, right? If I decided I was disinterested in being a parent.
I'd be willing to listen. You could share a brochure.
But you know what I mean? It's like, I find it like weird and like human trafficking-ish. I find the concept odd, and I'm uncomfortable with like the whole thing of it. I don't know. That's just, I think that intentionally depriving children of a mother, not because like the child was born accidentally, but to like intentionally, create children to not have them be raised by a mother and a father it's wrong, right? Like, obviously there are parents who are great single parents, but I don't think, would anybody argue that like all things being equal, it's like better not to have a mom or a dad?
This child has two dads. And one maybe playing the role of a mom.
The kid had a mother.
Well, the mother's not interested in being part of the scenario, Alice. So?
Well, she is interested in the money part of the scenario. Right?
Exactly.
So my point is just that one's like intentionally bringing kids into the world to not know a mother, which is, I think, wrong. But
I think you should take half a loaf, I would say, Alice. That's what I would say.
What do you mean half a loaf?
I don't know if I use that right, but I'm out of my mind right now. But
okay, I'm not sure what that means in this context.
All right, moving on.
I like everyone, but I don't think the world can convince me that that's like great.
It's like doing a podcast with Jerry Falwell.
Sorry.
All right, Falwell. Anything else? Now that or do you have to get back to the Westboro Baptist Church? Can you stay there for a while?
How can the non-controversial phrase that mothers are important in the lives of their children bring this kind of reaction from you? I didn't even think that was like a controversial statement to say kids need their mothers.
You are up there with a polyester blue suit, saying, and the sodomites will be cast down.
No, I'm not. I'm not doing
Yes,
anything to anybody. I'm saying that mothers are important to kids. Like, I don't think that's even like a controversial statement.
I'll look into what we can do to take the Dave's kid away from them. Okay, Alice, and we'll rectify the situation.
2 kids, yeah.
All right. I wanted to get to another thing. When we talk about the intransigence of this administration in the face of all these challenges, Jennifer Granholm is the best because, as you say, Alice, she says the quiet part out loud. Mm-hmm. Don't you see that?
Basically, if the administration or Congress should pursue, a standalone clean energy package, or just clearly, that you don't have a lot of time left to get a reconciliation bill through a Democrat-only Congress. Midterms are coming up. So if anything you can preview as to next steps on the congressional front, that would be great.
I mean, as you can imagine, and as you have heard, there is a lot of conversation that is happening right now in saying that this crisis in Europe and the crisis our allies are facing and the reduction of supply of natural gas and oil from Russia creates a moment that we should be acting. I mean, we heard President Zelensky. We do not want to see any country that is held hostage to Vladimir Putin, and this is a moment for Congress to be able to act. There can be a compromise. There can be movement on this. And whether it's, what the forum is and who sponsors are and all of that, that's a conversation that's happening. But the bottom line is, this is a moment to have this happen. It's an urgent moment.
An urgent moment to transition to clean energy. That is cynical at its worst.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this administration is not afraid to use literally anything that happens as an obvious mandate for their own personal policy preferences.
Right.
Putin invaded Ukraine. Obviously, that means we all need to switch to electric cars. Obviously, that means we need to address racism. Obviously, that means that we need to, whatever it is,
right.
like that they wanted to do anyway. Clearly, like Putin invading Ukraine means that, just like COVID meant that. Obviously, this means we need to deal with the urgent public health threat of climate change the same way we dealt with COVID. Like, everything that happens means that they have to do what they wanted to do anyway.
And it's why progressive politics is so divisive for the country. And this was the Obama thing, too.
Mm-hmm.
Is it saying that, okay, you see the wildfires? I mean, you need more cap and trade stuff. See the seas rising, more cap and trade. That means you need to do this, need to do that. Obama used to conflate illegal immigration with immigration. He used to talk about Nikola Tesla. What do we do without Tesla?
Mm-hmm.
And like this, saying this is a perfect opportunity to transition. Americans hear that and they say, God damn it, how the frig are you doing this at a time when the existential problem is the problem, not your shortcuts to getting your pie in the sky agenda items done?
Right.
And when Americans see that, they step on you and say, oh, stop it. You're just sick of the neighborhood you lived in is getting darker. Or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, why are these Trump fans so pent up angry at things? I don't understand. But really, they are such agitators, such dividers. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like, you're to say, shouldn't we right now be energy independent, will get a retort that is a verdict on your character. Mm-hmm. And it's a classless one. It's a trash one. It's a stupid one. It's boorish. It's always a personal attack. And I mean, it sows incredible discord and
oftentimes,
aggravation.
And I've noticed this with other debates that they have, like anytime, there's a mass shooting or something and they want to ban guns. If you say you don't think we should ban guns, then it's about, compensating for your masculine qualities.
Right.
And it's the same thing with the cars, right? How many posts have you seen from progressives recently about how cars have gotten too big? Look at this truck. It's too large. It goes up to my shoulder. And like, I saw one today where somebody was like comparing a pickup truck now to like a 2020 pickup truck that's like a 2-door little truck with like 5,000 pound towing capacity. And they're like, why would you need this big 20 years ago we drove these and we were happy. Like, it's and again, it's like you're just compensating for something. Tee-hee.
Right, and that's pointing to the repeated exercise for progressives to go back to a composite of those who have differences with you. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, he's a bro dude with a huge pickup who probably has a gun rack in the back and shoots innocent deer while beating his wife especially hard during the Super Bowl because he's a pig.
Of course. But it's funny that you bring that up, like the composites people have, like their imagined versions of America and of Americans, because, and it's really funny, there's this new YouGov poll that's out where they asked people like what they think the percents of different type of people are in the country, and people are wildly wrong. Here we go. So they asked people, what percent of Americans do you think have a household income? This is adult Americans. So what percent of American adults have a household income over $1 million?
You're asking me?
Income, yes.
1?
It's close. It's enough that it's 0. It's
right.
like
Okay.
less than 1. But the average that people guessed was 20%. What percent of people would you say are adult Americans are transgender?
I would say 1%.
You would be correct. And the American people guessed an average of 21% transgender. They think 1 out of every 5 people is transgender. What percent of people are Muslim in the United States?
I will say 13%.
You would be incorrect on that. It is 1%, but
Really?
the average that people guessed was 27%.
Oh, wow.
What percent of people would you say are Jewish in the United States?
6%.
Close, 2%. People guess 30%. So they think America is 57% Jewish or Muslim, and 43% everything else. What percent of Americans do you think live in New York City?
It is 3% of the country lives in New York City.
3% of the country lives in New York City. People felt that was 30%. What percent would you say lives in California?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because what is 4%?
No, it's actually 12%, which is higher than I might have guessed, but people guessed an average of 32%. And they also thought 30% of people lived in Texas. So they think over 90% of the country lives in New York, Texas, and California. Which I guess makes sense if you only see TV and movies, right? Seems about right. But again, same thing. They think 30% of people are gay. They think, what are some of the other good ones? They think 41% of people are black.
Right.
I mean, it goes on and on. But it's just funny because we do, I feel that we do have a very kind of, diverse and representative society. And we do, see and hear a lot of these stories in media and on TV. It's such that people think that these minority groups are, a way bigger percentage of the population than they actually are.
Well, I mean, isn't it total just confirmation bias? Isn't that what people want? The stats, want the facts or perceived facts that work in favor of their general worldview. So if you want to say, if you're a white, middle class, upper middle class person, who wants to believe that there is wall to wall racism, you go on Twitter, and ever since 2017, all of the police, Michael Brown, and this and that. You see, look at the cops killing black. It's all happening everywhere. And they get so sated and so high off of the reinforcement of what they're hoping will be right, that they never bother to look at the real stats. The real stats are a downer and don't play into it. And I've had certainly, loud arguments where people said, police are killing black people in the streets. And I said something like, it's at an all-time low for 50 years. Are you kidding me? You haven't looked? Have you not seen what's going on? It's seen what's going on. What, in your Twitter stream? On CNN? That particular thing that I head-to-head that I got into that time ended with the guy demanding to know what college I went to. And I said I didn't go, and he said, "Oh, well, great. Well, I think we know the truth now." So, all right, okay.
I think you've been pretty upfront about that.
Well, I understand that, but this idea that if I don't agree with him, then my amount of education is important. If I do agree with him, then I'm just right.
Right.
Institutionalized education. Anyway, it's
Yeah, do you remember that actually? What were you arguing with somebody about on Facebook, and they went and sneakily looked at your page and discovered that you used to be a concierge?
Mm-hmm.
And it was something totally unrelated.
It was
about property taxes or something.
Right, or or Indian logos for high schools or something.
Yeah, and they were like, "Well, what would you know about it, Mr. Former Concierge at the Omni Parker House?" As though they had made some winning chess move. Ha ha.
Can you imagine? Jesus Christ. People are stupid. That's fine. It's all good. How you doing, Allie B?
I am pretty good.
Oh, I do have some Biden audio for us.
So we established a new civil rights cause of action for those whose intimate images were shared on the public screen. How many times have you heard, I'll bet everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line, that in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position.
Naked friend.
In a compromising position.
Literally, in a sense, blackmails or mortifies that person. Send it out, put it online.
He should not be saying things like this. They should
just not let him ever go off script because it's bad. I'm sure we all know somebody who's blackmailed somebody with the picture of them in a compromising position. Like, what?
You
No,
can't
we
be
don't.
Hunter Biden's father and say this stuff.
Of course
with a
not.
straight face. There are naked young ladies who he's blasting rails of coke off on his laptop. It's like, really?
It's pretty bad.
Oh, all right, homie.
Okay. We'll let Tom go back to his bed where he can lie down and hopefully feel better tomorrow. We'll be back in Massachusetts soon. I think for our next Sunday show, we'll be back in Mass, I believe. So we'll see you then. Until then, or after tomorrow, you can find us on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod, Facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast, BurnBarrelPodcast.com. We're also Burn Barrel Podcast at gmail.com and all the places you like to listen to podcasts.
C'est la vie.